My name is Moses Powell. I've been studying jiu-jitsu for the last 20 years. I'm the master Furendo Visitational. And at this particular time, I'm a senior master in the art of jiu-jitsu Te and jiu-jitsu Ryu.
.radio.net presents to you some of the most deadly jiu-jitsu masters in the world. Trained in the vicious urban inner-city street combat system of Sanukas Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, this art was created by the legendary Dr. Moses Powell, the father of American contemporary jiu-jitsu and the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. This network brings together 4 radio shows 4 nights a week, starting with Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Each one teach one, with the Pia Master himself, Grandmaster Urban Mohammed, and his protege, Professor Terrence Hale. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Modern Combat Masters, hosted by the inheritor of GM Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu, guru of his own Filipino system, and Sanukas Master, Grandmaster Daryl Sargent, and his co-host, Sifu Reseda de Jesus. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. is Professor Tom Curry's radio talk show. A Kenpo Master and Professor of Sanukas Ryu, 20 years law enforcement, senior tactical training instructor for intelligence retired, and author of the official Sanukas Ryu Jiu-Jitsu testing and training curriculum. And Friday nights at 8 p.m. is Making the Connection, hosted by the president of DocRadio.net, Grandmaster in the art of Sanukas Ryu and Soke of Kuroshi Kaikan martial arts system, and president of the Family of Sanukas organization, Soki Haisan Khalik, and his co-host, Shihan Farouk Gibbs. All of these shows can be linked to online by typing in docradio.net or listening live at the scheduled time by dialing 646-716-6825. DocRadio.net is also proud to present DocMagazine.net, the world's largest martial art magazine dedicated to Dr. Moses Powell, Sanukas Ryu Eye-to-Eye Jiu-Jitsu, Urban Tactical Street Self-Defense, and Streetology. Please join our Facebook group by typing in docradio.net and follow us on Twitter by typing docradio.net. Thank you for your support, and in the words of Doc, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back, us.
Hello.
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 Eye to eye, Grandmaster.
Good.
Eye to eye.
Grandmaster Noah Arrington. How are we doing, sir?
Doing fine. Let me see. The volume is a little low. Can you up it a little bit?
Let's see what we can do on our end of it.
Okay,
Well,
that's very good then.
Okay. All right, let's get started here. Welcome to Eye-to-Eye.
Okay.
Welcome to Eye-to-Eye Radio on the Mat series, sponsored by the Senjo Kai or SenjoMartialArts.com, your premier Sanukas Ryu Jiu-Jitsu Academy, located here in Atlanta, Georgia. Good. Tonight we have a special guest, Grandmaster Noah Arrington, that we'll be interviewing, along with my co-host, partner in crime, and sidekick, the architect, Furqan Shabazz. How are we doing, Mr. Shabazz?
Oh, Sensei, I'm good.
Good. All right, well, since we got the Grandmaster online, let's go ahead and get this interview started. All right, we'll let Mr. Shabazz start it off.
Good afternoon, Grandmaster Noah Arrington. How you doing tonight? Good afternoon. It's a pleasure, for you taking time talking to us. Based on our phone, we have 5 questions, and I'm just gonna jump right into it. The first question is, my pleasure to be interviewed by you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. All right. My first question is, what makes you look at a man or woman and say, wow, this is a great Sanukas Ryu practitioner? Well, first of all, I'm not going to give you what I think most people would be the obvious answer. I look at their heart. I go past their technique and I look at their heart and what they represent and what they give forth. I know quite many outstanding technicians. I mean, technically wise, they're superb, but they're lacking something heart-wise. And when I say heart, I mean the compassion and the love that you must have to teach this art.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And how can you discern that? How can you discern that? Not to cut you off, I just want to know, how can you discern that? Because it would seem that if a person is very technical in their ability, they would have the heart for it, right?
No, that means they have the technical ability. But you see, to make that decision, it's not in a moment. It's not a snap of the moment thing. This takes time. You have to observe this person, time after time, and to see, because coming up, I knew a lot of martial artists that their whole agenda for teaching this art wasn't the Bushido, wasn't the code of honor about it. It was the idea of maybe they had to control power over someone, or maybe they used it for any other thing except what it should have been used for. That's why, I've seen a lot of martial artists come up in all sorts of systems, and after a while, you'll be able to discern, who is the real, true, respectful master. You'll be able to discern. Like I said, by one meeting, you'll never be able to pick this up. No.
Very deep.
That's deep. That's heavy, right there.
In all your years of snooker's Grandmaster Noah, now this is Shihan Salahuddin.
Yes.
Can you look at a martial artist? I kind of know the answer, but I kind of want you to say it. When you look at a martial artist or a particular snooker's practitioner, or someone that is not doing snookers, but can you discern what's snookers and what's not snookers just by looking at the person, the spirit, and the technical aspect of them? Can you look at someone and say that's snookers?
Yes, I can.
Or can you look exactly? And can you look at someone and say that's not?
A lot of people have come to Sanukas at a later point in their martial arts careers. And like I always use that term, they brought, leave your baggage at the front door. Not being, disparaging towards any other system, but if you want to study what Dr. Powell gave us, leave that there. Like Doc always used to say, after you guys finish doing what you're doing, come to me and I'll teach you some self-defense. And I can tell someone who's sort of tried to mix things up a little bit, but I can tell the true practitioner of Sanukas. Yes, I can.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Now let me ask you one more question to stay in this line of questioning. What is the major difference, or maybe there's not even a difference, in what was called Self-Defense Complete, Doc's earlier system, and then Snookus as it became Snookus, as it evolved into what Doc later called Snookus, and then Snookus Eye to Eye, and the other names that it's known as?
Well, you see, the thing with Doc was this. Like I always said, Dr. Moses Powell was a cornucopia of martial arts. Being cornucopia means having no beginning and no ending. Doc was so gifted that Doc didn't make plans in terms of teaching. Doc just got on the mat and taught. And like I remember one time he told me years ago, he said, you can stay away from me 2-3 weeks, and something will be done that you will never get a chance to see. And it's true. Because, you see, I can look at Doc's teachings in different phases. Well, I remember this group of people, they caught Doc in the early years. This group maybe caught him in the middle years. And maybe another group caught him in the tail end, when he wasn't as active physically as he was at one time. And I can discern where you came up with him. Because I remember not too long ago, I was watching a class, and I made a statement. I said, do you people kick? And they looked at me. I said, when I came up under Dr. Moses Powell, kicking was part of our arsenal. We worked on front snap kicks. We worked on side thrust kicks. We worked on back kicks, Mawashigiri, roundhouse kicks. We worked on all of them, and we put it into our self-defense. It wasn't our primary. Very, very, not very often you would see somebody from Sanukas just, okay, he's attacked and he'll block and throw a kick. No, but after a while, when you're developing this technique, you know when to apply those kicks. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Grandmaster, I have another question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is it more important to be respected or feared? And why didn't you abandon the system? What made you so loyal to Snooker's Rule? So those are the two questions. Is it more important to be respected or feared? Is it more?
Ask question. What is it? What does the prince want to know? Should I be loved or feared?
Right.
You know what the answer is to that?
What's that?
Both. Both.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
I was telling a young instructor not too long ago, I said, let me tell you something. When you hit that mat, you have to let it be known that this is your mat. You know, all of that, you know, trying to look, you know, because I'm the belt for you, try to test you. You know, you let it be known immediately, you know, I'm here to give you this knowledge. You are there to receive it. And we're not going to play these games about, well, what would you do? You ever heard that old famous guys who say, what would you do if I did this? What would you do if I did that? No, that's out. You know, you have to be totally respected as the sensei and Sinbon on the mat.
Good. And the second part to that question is, why didn't you abandon the system of Snooker's Rule? What kept you so loyal to it?
Well, first of all, where I grew up in Brooklyn, St. John's Center, Community Center, was, I could walk out my front door, and it was about maybe a football field and a half away from me. And I knew a lot of guys in there. And one day, this fellow, one of the lifeguards there, said, hey, no, man, I got a friend of mine coming here tomorrow. You know, he teaches self-defense. I want you to take a look at him. And I said, all right, I'll take a look. Because, meanwhile, you see, in St. John's Center, I had seen numerous other martial artists there. I won't go to elaborate who they were, but these were names that you all would know. But that day that I went upstairs and saw Doc, I said, wait a minute. You don't have to be a martial artist to realize that you're seeing something that is beautiful and effective. You know, I mean, I could pick up right off the bat that this is something that it wasn't, well, you have to do this for 1,000 years. No, Doc could give you something like you always say, I'd like to give you something the first day you have a class that you could walk out the front door and have it in your arsenal that you could defend yourself with. Yeah, that's why I stayed with him all that time. And also another reason was Doc treated me so well as a student and also as a friend that I felt obligated that the only way I could do anything to give back was to teach what he taught me. This is why I was his chief instructor on downtown Brooklyn on Atlantic Avenue, which was headquarters. This is why, you know, a lot of people that you run across, most of these people have my name on their certificate also. I took a lot of people in San Lucas.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, so, Grandmaster, you were Doc's chief instructor at 554 Atlantic Avenue?
554 Atlantic Avenue, yes.
You were the chief instructor. Now, what does the chief instructor mean when Doc wasn't there?
Well, let's put it this way.
Yes, sir.
I can tell you, people who were teaching out there was myself, Pedro Violette, Alberta, Sister Veronica Walker, who's now down in Florida, and Chuck Hickman. We were the ones who taught the classes down there.
Yes,
and
sir.
Pedro and I were the ones who, because see, at this point in time, Doc was on the road a lot. Doc was doing a lot of traveling. We were running the school and doing the majority of the teaching. You know,
I'm sorry, Grandmaster.
The real only class that I would really be involved with, other than teaching, would be on the Friday night class when Doc sort of demanded that all of his black folks, you will attend this class on Friday. And he said, I made it on Friday because I know you want to go out there and enjoy yourself, but you're going to come here first. And those were some outstanding classes.
Wow.
That man, Grandmaster, you know, I when I was marketing this on Facebook, I put Grandmaster Noah Arrington, a living legend. You're definitely a living legend, sir. And I just want to reiterate, you know, thank you for this opportunity. The third question is this: what was the hardest period for Sanuka's rule system in the 80s in New York when Doc went away and basically left you in charge and who else was in that elite entourage? What was some of the challenges?
No. Let me put it this way: Doc went away in 1978.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I'll never forget it. Doc went away in 78, and Doc was gone for 10 years plus. During that time, I happened to move upstate New York, and I worked upstate, and I used to work out with some Kenpo people up there just to be involved in movement and action. But other people, it was like a scramble. Some went to Mr. V, others went to other systems, and that's how that went, you know. And when Doc came back, then it was, okay, let's see who's going to come back home. You know, because I tell people, when Doc left me in 78, I was Godon. I was 5th degree. I stayed 5th degree until he came back. I wasn't going around. I wasn't accepting any ranks from anybody else. I stayed that until he came back.
Wow. Unbelievable.
So in the 80s, so in Brooklyn, or nowhere in the 5 boroughs, there wasn't no one teaching Sanuka's rule in the 80s when he was gone?
Well, you figured when he left, you had Little John Davis, who was teaching, but at this time, Little John had started his own system, Comite Rule, and you had other people, I guess, who were, you know, Robert Crossan was teaching, you know. Yeah, you had other people teaching, yes.
Yeah, you had a school on Rockaway, right?
Then you had the contingency of people that followed right to Mr. V, like Kenny Brown and that group of people who went right to Mr. V, and you know, so it wasn't that people weren't active anymore. It's just that they weren't active in Sanuka per se anymore.
But just outside of those other systems, I mean, just pure Sanuka's rule. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a pure Sanuka's rule school in the 80s in Brooklyn anyway.
No. But you see, you have to realize these people I just named, they went on into others, like Robert Crossan went on to what he called Sugaroo Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes, sir.
Robert Crossan, let me tell you, outstanding practitioner. Outstanding. Yes, and you had Little John Davis, who, by the way, I'll tell you, was when I joined Doc, Little John Davis was his only black belt at that time. That was in 1964-65. Little John Davis was his only black belt, and went on to become an outstanding free fighter. You know, which Doc, you know, the only reason he got into that is because some students, you know, Little John and Lumumba, they were interested in sparring. This is how he ended up in all of these events that Oriental World Self-Defense that Grandmaster Aaron Banks gave, because they wanted to spar. And Doc went along with them, like, this is what you choose to do such, you know. Lumumba became Dr. Powell's first champion, you know, which he acknowledges when he put people in his Hall of Fame. Lumumba was the second person inducted. You know, his contemporary, Grandmaster Duncan, was the first person. I happen to be the third person inducted. So, you know, it never really died. It's just people took different, you know, views on it. And like I tell people, I teach what Doc gave me. I'll never forget one incident. I was on the mat and I did something, and Doc called me. He says, "Come here." He said, "Did I show you that?" Now, I didn't know how to take that. I said, "Wait a minute, did I do something that was really, you know, out of the parameters of what we do?" I said, "No, you didn't, sir." You know what he said to me? He said, "No, I didn't, but you did. In other words, you're starting to be able to create and how to move into different things without being actually have to be shown. Because, like Doc said, I've given you all enough for a lifetime, and which is true, for a lifetime.
Now, Grandmaster,
Doc was so much of the perfectionist that and I've been all over with him doing demos in the country, out of the country. Doc never would say, okay, now we have to be prepared and start to work on this. And he would say, this demonstration is just another workout. Let's go do it. That's how Doc was.
Yes, sir.
Hey, but Grandmaster, I got a question. I always wanted to know. Now, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a minute. Now, what if Professor V said, well, Doc, what I have here is great. There's no need to create Sanuka's rule. You're fine. Just take this high rank and be done with that and carry this on.
Wait a minute. So a truck is going past. I couldn't hear you. Okay. Oh.
Yeah. You can hear me now, Grandmaster?
Yeah. What did you say?
Yeah. I said to play devil's advocate. I said, now what if Professor V would have told Doc, there's no need for you to evolve Sanuka's rule or create self-defense complete. Basically, what you have here in Jiu-Jitsu is fine. What do you think about that argument? And because the argument really is because just as it was okay for Doc to create Sanuka's rule, do you not think there's other that God put other visions and other practitioners who might have come out of Sanuka's rule?
Okay, the thing is this. Mr. V told Doc that he accepted his system and wished him the best with it. Mr. V gave Moses his blessings, right? Now, a lot of people who came out of Sanukas, they didn't come out of it with Doc's blessings. That's why there's a tape out where Doc says, look, if you're going to call what you're doing something else, let it be that. Let it be, call it what you're doing, but don't make it a part of Sanukas. He wants Sanukas to stand by itself. This is Sanukas rule, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back. Now, other things, if you're doing that, do that. He wasn't upset about that fact. It's just, if you're going to leave.
Grandmaster, move on to the fourth question. Man, you're a heavy brother. Man. We only got 30 minutes for, man. Fourth question is this, Grandmaster. All right, you being part of Dr. Punk's inner circle from the 60s till now, what goes through your mind when you see Johnny-come-latelys that say things like, Doc gave me this, Doc gave me that, and I have the true Sanukas?
The thing is this, like I make this statement. I am first generation Sanukas. I was there when there was no Sanukas, when Doc called what he did self-defense complete. Then it was changed to Sanukas. I'm first generation back, you see. So when I see people who claim, like I've heard of people talk about, yes, I'm one of his senior students. And they've had maybe 10, 15 years in, which is not, look, what can I say? I'm not upset with the fact yet, but, understand that there are some of us who, I started with Doc when I was 21 years old. I'm 67 right now.
Wow.
Do the math. I've been there a little while.
Yes, sir.
I've been with the man when we got off planes in the dead of the winter. I've been with him when we was in Panama and didn't know how we were going to get home.
Yes,
I've been with him. When I say I know Doc, nobody knows anyone completely, but I have a very good idea of his thinking and how he went about things. And he's brilliant in what he did. Like, it was funny. People always ask Doc, who do you think is the best in such and such? And Doc would say, I'm the best in what I do. And that would be his answer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I like that.
So, Grandmaster Noah, you said you and Doc and some other students, you guys went all over the world. I heard you mention Panama. Where are some of the places that you and Doc demonstrated? I mean, a lot of people think snooker's is in Brooklyn and Miami or Lauderdale or in Miami and Chicago. They think snooker's is local, but Doc took this thing around the world.
Let me tell you something. We have people in Stuttgart, Germany, that practice snooker's.
Yes,
There's
sir.
a young man, Bernard. I forget his last name, but I taught him down on Atlantic Avenue, and about, I guess, it must have been 10 years ago or 12 years ago, he came back from Stuttgart and brought 15 of his students with him to have them perform in front of Doc. And
yes, sir.
you could see, this is why, I tell people how ethnicity didn't mean anything to Doc. Color, race, creed made no difference, because these people these Germans from Stuttgart, Germany, they moved with the same essence and spirit and love that Doc moved with.
Yeah, move with the heart,
Doc has touched people all over the world.
Yes.
We had a student on Atlantic Avenue who ended up being a major in the Mossad, Israeli Secret Service. He used to write Doc and tell him how much he was appreciative of his teachings. Doc has touched a lot of people in this world.
Wow.
So Grandmaster, so you're saying that there's actually snooker's practitioners teaching snooker's in Europe right now?
Yeah.
Europe?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I never knew that.
Absolutely.
Oh.
And the Caribbean, South America.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew about the Caribbean.
Yeah,
but I didn't know
Doc
about
has
the Europe part.
been to Panama, he's been to Jamaica. Yeah. You see, the thing was, when Doc would go someplace and people saw what was being done, they made it their business to make sure that, wait a minute, we can't really let him get away. We're gonna can we work something out here? That's what happened in Panama the first time we went there. The first time we went to Panama, some Panamanian fellows that we knew on Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, who were tailors up there, and we used to shop from their shop, and we got to be friends. They, in turn, hooked up a demonstration for Doc to go down to Panama, and a beer company had sponsored it. And we went down there to the stadium in Panama, and who happens to be there that night? Colonel Manuel Noriega. When he sees what Doc is doing, honestly, the next day we were in the airport. A call comes through, that plane is not leaving. I want to see this man, Moses Powell.
Wow.
Now, it was about 12 or 13 of us went down there. And a lot of guys were like, wait a minute, what have we done? What's wrong? So Doc, Little John, and myself were the three who stayed. And that's when we got a chance to go to Manuel Noriega's home and talk to him. And that's when Doc, in turn, was, presented with the opportunity to teach his National Guard, which that goes into another story that could take a long time to tell.
All right, Grandmaster, we have about 3 minutes left. I'm going to ask you the last question.
Okay.
Here it is, Grandmaster. Here it is. All right. If Doc was Moses and Aaron symbolically represents a group of people, and you being part of that Aaron, as you look out from the top of that Sanucus Rule mountain, what is the current state of Sanucus Rule currently, and what can the young generations do to preserve the art?
What they can do, it's just like in anything that's being taught.
And Grandmaster, not to cut you off, and what is the current state of Sanucus Rule?
Well, right now, Sanucus Rule is in a situation where I think we're getting ready to blossom with the founding of with the USFA. That should be outstanding. because everybody's has a concerted effort to keep San Lucas in the public's eye. And the thing I say about teaching is, it's just like in a language. You ever heard that expression, something's lost in translation? Well, when you teach, I don't want somebody who looks so much different from what has been given to us. That means something hasn't been given to you properly. And that's the thing. You want to keep it. I'd like to keep it as pure as possible of what San Lucas is.
Oh, us. Now, I had an interesting conversation with, we had interviewed Senior Grandmaster Anaconda, and I asked him a similar question. And one thing he did say that was interesting was he said that, Doc was always evolving the system. And he said, basically the paraphrase was that, even if you're going to, learn new things, bring it back home, bring it back to the pot, But I think what he was saying was, instead of abandoning the system, which basically gave you a foundation, bring it back to the basic. I call this the Nucus Nation, and that to only strengthen it. What do you think about that perspective?
What do you mean in terms of bringing something from somewhere else back to San Lucas?
Us.
That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Well, you see, I believe. Maybe it's just me, but I believe Doc. I know he gave me all I needed to have. And when I say that, I mean covering all aspects of jiu-jitsu, all aspects of self-defense. And it's just like somebody was asking about weaponry and stuff like that. I said, I know what the weapons that Doc gave us. And, I use the water quite often, the little 6-7 inch stick. And I asked Doc, I said, why did you stop teaching that, Doc? You know what he told me? He said, didn't I teach you? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, that's the answer. You teach it. You see, so as far as bringing something in the years I was at Doc, he presented to me a complete format of what is really apropos. I don't, this is like all our certificates that says modern jiu-jitsu. We're not talking about 1812. We're not talking about the 12th century back then. We're talking about today. This is how I look at it.
We're going to have to end here. We're running out of time. But thank you for your interview, and eye to eye.
You're absolutely welcome.
Heart to heart.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, eye to eye.
Heart to heart.
All right.
My name is Moses Powell. I've been studying jiu-jitsu for the last 20 years. I'm the master Florendo Visitational. And at this particular time, I'm a senior master in the art of Jiu-Jitsu Te and Jiu-Jitsu Ryu.
.radio.net presents to you some of the most deadly jiu-jitsu masters in the world. Trained in the vicious urban inner-city street combat system of Sanukas Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, this art was created by the legendary Dr. Moses Powell, the father of American contemporary jiu-jitsu and the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. This network brings together 4 radio shows 4 nights a week, starting with Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Each one teach one, with the Pia Master himself, Grandmaster Urban Mohammed, and his protege, Professor Terrence Hale. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Modern Combat Masters, hosted by the inheritor of GM Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu, guru of his own Filipino system, and Sanukas Master, Grandmaster Daryl Sargent, and his co-host, Sifu Reseda de Jesus. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. is Professor Tom Curry's radio talk show. A Kenpo Master and Professor of Sanukas Ryu, 20 years law enforcement, senior tactical training instructor for intelligence retired, and author of the official Sanukas Ryu Jiu-Jitsu testing and training curriculum. And Friday nights at 8 p.m. is Making the Connection, hosted by the president of DocRadio.net, Grandmaster in the art of Sanukas Ryu and Soke of Kuroshi Kaikan martial arts system, and president of the Family of Sanukas organization, Soki Haisan Khalik, and his co-host, Shihan Farouk Gibbs. All of these shows can be linked to online by typing in docradio.net or listening live at the scheduled time by dialing 646-716-6825. DocRadio.net is also proud to present DocMagazine.net, the world's largest martial art magazine dedicated to Dr. Moses Powell, Sanukas Ryu Eye-to-Eye Jiu-Jitsu, urban tactical street self-defense, and streetology. Please join our Facebook group by typing in docradio.net and follow us on Twitter by typing docradio.net. Thank you for your support, and in the words of Doc, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back, os.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, this is On The Mat Series, SinjoKai.com Dojo, Word Within Branch, bringing my co-host and Shihan Salahuddin. How you doing this afternoon?
Good. Oh, very good. How you doing, brother?
Good. Yeah, I want to talk to our listening audience. We're going into our new season. The first season was really good. We interviewed about maybe 25, 26 masters in the Sanukas Ryu system. Most of them were, probably all of them trained directly under Dr. Moses Powell. And this is actually the first interview for our new season. And just to get right into it, our guest tonight is Grandmaster Urban Mohammed, another legend in Sanukas family. And history probably will remember him as the probably one of the most foremost authorities on the PIA forms, 1 through 9. That he says is probably the Rosetta Stone of the Sanukas Ryu system. And so with no further ado, let me bring in Grandmaster Urban Mohammed. Grandmaster,
heart to heart, sir.
How you doing, sir? I got my Shihan Salahuddin on the phone. We're live on the mat right now.
All right, brother. I'm doing well, thank Allah. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. How's that weather out there in California?
I'm not going to tell you because then you're going to want to leave the East Coast and come out here. Yeah. Hey, Grandmaster. I'm gonna just get right into it. I want to thank you on the air, for giving us your time and opportunity to interview you. We definitely value that, and we're honored. And I'm sure our audience is honored to be blessed by your wisdom and your knowledge. Before we go into it, you could just kind of open it up, kind of break the ice a little bit. Tell us a little bit about who you are as it relates, and how you came into Sanukis Rule, how you met Dr. Moses Powell, and we'll just flow from there.
Well, first I'd like to thank you for the kind things you said. I'm, of course, Professor Urban Mohammed, and I started with Doc back about 1968. And at that time, Doc himself had not had the level of rank that he ultimately, achieved. And, I mean, if you were just a black belt on the mat at that time, that was a big belt. Loki Littlejohn was one of the main instructors on the mat at the time. There was, Brother Pedrito. There were brothers that were of enormous talent. Some have passed on. Like there was a Brother David who, as I remember, was studying to be a doctor. And there was something so special about this brother. He had a key eye that if he just opened up his mouth, the tone, the shrill, the force of just his sound was enough to make you hesitate. But it was like, I remember the first time I walked into Sanukis, it was just the unbelievable amount of talent that was on the mat. It's like I looked at these brothers and I thought to myself, I'm never going to be like that. But maybe if I stay here long enough, I might get a little something that would help me out in these streets. And fortunately, the best mistake I ever made, or the best blessing I ever received, was I started and I stayed with it. I never really stopped. I stuck it out.
I know you're a Vietnam veteran. I know you're in the Marines, and I know you said that when you came back. Tell me what was that transition coming from one of the most dangerous American wars, and then training under probably one of the most dangerous martial artists. What was that transition? Coming out of the Marine Corps and then training under Dr. Moses Powell. I mean, what was the similarity between, let's say, the hand-to-hand combat mentality of the Marines and the hand-to-hand combat of Doc?
Well, the combat that we got in the Marine Corps, we really didn't get any training, brother. They just put us in the uniform and dropped us on the sand. I don't think the government really, was equipped or prepared to really give good combat training. They gave you some familiarity, with a few things, but just the general troops, we didn't really get any special training. There were a lot of brothers in the Marine Corps who were into martial arts, and we would get together, we would work out, and some of the brothers were really proficient, at what they had, and we just worked to be working, and hoping that it would develop our skills in some manner that would help us if we need it. But when I came back stateside, or when I went to Sanukis, it was like walking into a cathedral for me, brother. There was, irregardless of the deadliness of the people, and that were there, and what they were doing at the level and of efficiency that they were doing it at, there was still such a aura of peace in the building. It just calmed me down, brother. It almost, I remember first going in and just looking and just feeling at peace. It really didn't have anything to do with the degree of violence that Sanukis may appear to, exhibit. It was really about the calmness of the people, the humbleness of the people that were participating. It was about the righteousness of the brothers that were doing what they were doing. And, we're not talking about people that were of any particular religious order, so to say. But, brother, there was Sanukis had almost like a religious feeling to it. Because once you got in it and you started doing it, it was like praying. It just felt right in my heart. Maybe that's why I stayed so long, because of the way it felt in my heart.
I remember you were saying that you met him when, this was my language. I said, right before he really blew up. Like you met him like when he was, it was still, in a real, I guess, underground stage. But you were telling me how you was a lifeguard and how you used to train on the tell the audience about that experience. When you was a lifeguard and how you used to train in the pool area.
Well, I was a lifeguard at the Brownsville Recreation Center in Brooklyn. It was an indoor pool, and Doc liked to be around the water. And myself and the partner that I work with, James Waller, we'd bring him to the pool as much as, we could get hold of him to come to the pool, because every time he came there, we got special classes, And it's like, well, the pool surface is pool tiles. And when we were working with Doc, Doc said, come here, let me show you something. We were rolling and falling on those pool tiles. So when we hit the mat down at the dojo, that was really a blessing. Yeah. What do you think about that training, though? Like that. Matter of fact, I was talking to a master. I'm not going to say his name, but he just say, like, back in the day, masters, they would, some guys would go to the extent of breaking their knuckles because they felt that by breaking it, when it healed up, it'd be harder. And, doing all these, very, just real extreme type of training. But he said that, that's how it was in the 70s. But he said as he matured, he said he found that he would see a lot of Oriental masters, like when he traveled. And he said that when they would train, when they was done, they would always put, like, healing oil, like, on their hands, and they would always, heal their body. Whereas in our community, it was always like, just almost like this He-Man mentality, break up the body like that. I mean, do you think now, do you think that kind of training, what do you think about the type of training, like in 2012? I mean, do you think that is wise to train like that? Or do you think it's necessary to train like that? Let me kind of go back and maybe be able to answer that question if I go back a little bit. If you go back to, like, the 60s and the 70s, when during that particular time, New York City was like, it was a martial arts renaissance going on. There was stuff happening with the martial arts in the New York City area that wasn't happening anyplace else in the world. And much of that was that there was a lot of brothers like Dr. Powell, George Cofield, Le Puppet. These guys put a whole new, a whole new slant to what martial arts was. Prior to that, martial arts had been very traditional and very kept within its circles. I mean, a lot of brothers had gone to World War II and gotten introduced to judo or whatnot and came back, with it. But they didn't really do anything with it as far as teaching it and really spreading it. But somehow during that particular time, there was just everybody in New York was working out, man. And it had a lot to do, I believe, with, the Cultural Revolution that was happening at that time. I mean, black people were demanding rights and not asking for what, God gave them the right to have. They were saying, we're going to have it all. We're just going to fight. And, when you got somebody putting a police dog on you, you're going to fight. It wasn't a question of, if you could fight or, when you would have to fight. You knew invariably if you were a relatively militant, black man in the United States of America living in New York City, you better know how to fight, because a fight was going to find you whether you was looking for it or not. Right. So we all had an extra push to work out, I guess. And the way the martial arts was at that time, because it was really kind of new and even new to the people who were the best at it, they were in developmental stages. So a lot of the stuff that they did, what you say is hard stuff that they used to do back then that they don't do now, well, that comes from development. They grew, they learned, they found out what was necessary and what was not necessary. I remember one time we were in the dojo, and a couple of the brothers were busting bricks. And Doc walked in, and looked at them and kind of shook his head and walked away. And everybody was wondering, why is he mad at us busting bricks? And Doc looked at it and said, why are you busting the brick? They're never going to get up and hit you. You need to know how to deal with the person that's got the brick in their hand. And he kind of, he gave us insight that, abusing yourself, like busting bricks and stuff, that showed you maybe what your level of power is, but why you got to make your hands all ugly when nobody's going to want to shake your hand or, no woman's going to want you to touch them.
Grandmaster, the more, I was going to ask you, go ahead, sir, I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry.
Yeah, so, it's like the training has changed, but I don't think that the training has gotten watered down, as some people might say. The training has gotten more sophisticated. Back then, a lot of times, one of the masters would be doing something, and sometimes you could tell in their eyes, in the manner in which they did it, that it was the first time they ever did the moves that they did themselves. And you had to survival out of that teaching, because that's just the way it was. Today, it's a lot more sophisticated. People understand more of what they're doing. People understand, the foundation and the mechanisms that make a block, that make a strike. What is a move? What is a move about? What is about? How do you study a person's movement? When is the best time to hit a person? It's just that there's just more knowledge today. It's not that it's, weaker today, but there's just more knowledge today.
And Grandmaster, all right. So I'm gonna now get into what the entire world wants to know in terms of your take on the PIA form. So I wanna turn and if you just tune in, I'm talking to Grandmaster Mohammed, one of the one of the rare. There's not a whole lot of them, but he's one of the rare living Grandmasters that's been touched by Dr. Powell. And I would like everybody to go to YouTube.com and type in urban space Mohammed space PIA. That's CIA. And I'm spelling Mohammed as Mohammed. And the first link you see is going to be his clip. It's going to say Sanuka Shru Jiu-Jitsu, Dr. Moses Powell speaks on the legendary PIA forms. I demonstrated. And then I want you to turn your clip to 4 minutes and 5 seconds. And Grandmaster, I'm about to play this clip. You're going to be speaking. I'm going to let you listen, hear yourself, and then I'm going to come back to you and let you elaborate on what you just said. Us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Us.
We believe that you have developed an ability to start to read this book so we can give a little traction. And we pray that you'll be able to not just do the forms in the manner that you typically see, but do the forms in the manner that you'll be able to teach yourself and learn from the forms. Different things to do within the guidance of the instructor that you will be working with. Is that right? Because this Sanuka's forms not meant for somebody just with no understanding of Sanuka's pick up a DVD and think that they can look at the DVD and do this. Because there's too many little specific nuances within what you do that you're always going to need a qualified Sanuka's instructor. Don't really find what's going on for you so you can get more information out of what you do.
Grandmaster, can you elaborate on what you were saying and just open up the PIA and just kind of give the audience what PIA is and just open it up so we can go deep into that topic?
Well, what the PIA forms were a group of forms that Dr. Powell gave us back in the early 70s. And he didn't teach them for a very long time. He kind of just came out with them, dropped them to those that were there. And, then he kind of just went on to other things because Doc had so much in him. He was constantly giving you something new. So he didn't stay with the old stuff that he gave you. And unfortunately, many of the people who did get the PIA forms then, because Doc didn't stay on them, and they were going to class and not necessarily, the forms were not necessarily reinforced in class, they just kind of stopped doing it and got away from them, and they forgot them. For myself, my blessing was I'd gotten the forms, and it was something that I really liked because it helped me with just movement. It gave me something to do when I was away from class. And when I left New York in 1980, it was 15 years before I saw Doc again. I didn't see Doc again until 1995. during that time, all I had was the piriforms. I shouldn't say all I had, but I should say fortunately what I had was the piriforms. And I kept doing the piriforms, and that was my guide for continuing my study of Sanukus. Well, ultimately, what happened was I began to realize, you know how you keep doing something over and over and over again, you begin to see something about it, maybe that the person that just glanced at it didn't notice. Well, from constantly keeping doing the piriforms, they started to show me that the piriforms were not just a form to be done, you know, in just a consecutive manner, you know, that you do them in, but I started to realize how in-depth the piriforms were in terms of their structure. Every movement was almost like a principle unto itself. You don't have to take the piriforms and do them in a sequential order, say, in a fight. You can take any one piece of the piriform, just any one movement, and use that for a whole array of things, be it an entry, an exit, or even the whole manner in which you might be working. What Doc had said the piriforms were, that they were a system of joint striking and nerve striking. And we didn't elaborate too much on why he didn't teach them a lot. I remember once I had asked him, why didn't he teach the forms a lot, you know, or much more? And he said kind of because when he came out and dropped the piriforms, he saw how important they were or how much was in them. And he kind of, you know, Doc was a person of great vision. He wasn't, you know, somebody that just did a little thing and, you know, didn't understand what he was doing. Doc was a visionary. Doc was a very spiritual man. And sometimes, you know, as far as Sanukus is concerned, I believe he had that ability to be able to, how you say, see over the mountaintop before he got there. And he said he knew what was going to happen in Sanukus in terms of the people participating in it. I guess he may have saw the politics, you know, and he just said he didn't want it to be out there any more than it was, that it would have its time that everybody would need it. But right now, he just had a lot of other things to teach.
Now, Grandmaster, let me ask you. You said that Doc said that it was it basically encapsulates joint striking and nerve striking. Now, starting with the first one, with the joint striking, at the highest form, like in terms of the insight that you see in those piriforms, like what is Pia trying to communicate? Like what is hidden in those forms that it's trying to tell that it tells the practitioner as it relates to the joint techniques, the joint striking techniques?
As it relates to the joints and the nerves, there's no block that's done just as a block to deflect or move an attack away from you. Every block that's made, when you really start to study where those blocks are made, they're all striking nerves. When you strike a nerve, what happens? You deaden that arm a whole lot more than if you just redirect a punch away from you. If a punch is coming at you and all you do is deflect it, you can look forward to that punch coming back again. Is that right? But if a punch is coming at you and you hit that nerve that's on that arm package, you go down about 3 inches below your elbow on the forefront of your arm, and you hit that nerve there nice and solidly. Trust me, that punch is not going to come back at you too quickly again. So it really teaches you the anatomy of the body. It teaches you not just to throw a punch or to make a block just for the sake of not getting hit, but it shows you that whatever you touch, you should leave your mark there. There should be a sense of destruction. If destruction is what you choose to do. Because the piriforms have also grown. Doc used to say, you know, the piriforms, as much as they can kill, they can heal. And I never understood that part until I got older myself. But the piriforms are also very healing. When you do them in a slower manner with concentrated breathing, it's like doing Tai Chi, brother. It keeps your limbs loose. It keeps your heart rate in the right place. It'll help keep keep your cholesterol levels low. It has so many healing properties. It's very meditative. It's very spiritual. It's very opening for you. So yes, sir.
So Grandmaster, so when you say that Pia is the Rosetta Stone of Sanukis, is it safe to say that Sanukis at its highest form, its intent is to destroy the nerves in the joints?
In its operation, it does that. If you say, what is Sanukis in its highest intent? Sanukis in its highest intent, brother, is to keep you safe. It's to go home. Sanukis in its manner in which it makes that happen is very destructive. Brother used to say sometimes, Sanukis ain't pretty, but it's effective.
So another way of describing Sanukis. So like if I had to categorize this, so say I work in a library and I had to catalog this martial art, like let's say Taekwondo, I'll put that under like a kicking art, right? Judo or grappling art. But Sanukis, if I had to put this in the catalog, like would it fit under joint and nervous system art, or like
I've found that Sanukis really doesn't fit in any of the categories because Sanukis is so versatile that it goes anywhere and everywhere that martial arts is about. You've got the kicking, you've got the throwing, the locking, the holding, the tearing, the ripping, the gouging. You name it, brother, it's there. The most beautiful thing about Sanukis is, I've found over time that a lot of people come to me from other martial arts, and when they come, I tell them, don't come here and forget what you know. Come here and add what you have to what you know. Enhance what you have. And Sanukis is an encompassing and a very enhancing martial art when you add it to anything. It's very, very, effective in its purity. But if you just take it and you're coming from someplace else, and you're going to add because if you look at the Sanukis practitioners, you'll see there's a lot of brothers in there with karate background because they never really leave that karate. You can still see them doing Sanukis, but they do it in a manner where you can recognize the karate in their spirit.
Grandmaster, you know how like when you play yes.
Go ahead, brother.
You know how like when you play a piano, right? And you know how like you got like the I don't know nothing about it, but I know a little bit. Like you got like the middle part, and like the alto part, like it's higher pitched, and it's like a lower pitch.
Yes,
and you got like the middle part, like a So in Pia forms from 1 to 9, like let's say if Pia was a piano, as you go up those numbers, how does the tempo of the techniques, like how does the tempo of the movements change, and how does the destruction change as you move up from 1 through 9?
The tempo in the Pia forms from 1 to 9 really doesn't change. What does change is what each form reveals. When you first start out with the Pia forms, you're basically just moving out of the way of attacks, learning how to position yourself to be in a more favorable place than you might ordinarily be. You're learning that to make your blocks, you're trying to figure out how to put them on a nerve so that you get the proper effect. You're learning that it doesn't make any sense to stand in front of somebody kicking when you know that 80% of a person's power is in their legs. Why stand there? You can't block the kick, but you sure can get out of the way of the kick and hit that leg in a place where you don't have to worry about it coming back up at you real fast. So with Pia 1 might show you basic movement, basic blocks and basic strikes, and where to put those blocks, strikes. Remember we said that Pia was about nerve striking and joint striking and specific targets. Like there's a breathing strike on Pia 1 where the first movement, it's a block coming like towards your body, then it's a quick downward block because of somebody throwing a strike and the kick at you. And once you make that first block and you're inside them, there's a breathing strike that comes out of Sanukis where you just kind of just breathe and roll through. But the power and energy that you develop in that particular strike Brother, that strike, you talk about breaking bricks and going through walls, that strike will put a person down. So you not only learn how to just block, strike, and deliver a punch, but you learn how to develop a power of a magnitude that is not ordinary. And it's in all of us.
And Grandmaster, let me ask you, and when you generate, and that strike that you're talking about, the one that, like you just said, it could put a cat down, with that strike, where's the base of the strength coming from? Where's the base of the energy being derived from in that particular movement?
From your breathing.
Your breathing.
Because you breathe in, and as you're breathing out is when that strike is going out. At point of impact, it's like this burst of energy, because the whole strike in and of itself is very, very relaxed. But at the point of impact, it's like extremely explosive. It's like a whip. If you ever seen anybody working a real long whip, that whip almost looks like it's going in slow motion. But at the tip of that whip, when it gets ready to strike its target, it's explosive. That's how that strike is. And that strike is
so your breathing can actually affect, so the way you breathe can actually affect the power behind your attack?
Brother, your breathing controls your energy, period. So how you breathe is how much energy you're going to be using. Figure 1 teaches you how to bring up your internal energies, to start storing your own power. When you start getting to Figure 1, you start to develop the type of energy that when you block something, you don't even feel it. You know how you see some of these people that break boards on their arms, and people hit them with knives and it doesn't even penetrate their skin. I'm not saying that I'm going to do that, but Figure 1 in itself, just the idea of how it shows you to begin to summon your own energy, to bring your own spirit to a specific focal point. It begins to teach you to bring your own power that's in you up out of you so you can deliver it someplace where you need it to be delivered to save your life. It's like if you see your baby outside and a car is on top of him, you're going to run outside and somewhere you will find the power to pick that car up so your child can get out from under it. That power is in you, but you don't train it. So you can't use it readily. But in P1, you begin to get an introduction on how to use that power. You begin to find, oh, wow, this is here. Let me keep doing this and see what happens if I can develop this power. And then one day you do develop that power and you go to touch somebody and they're like, ow, man, why you hurt me like that? And you look at them and say, I really didn't mean to put that much force on you. It's not that you're being out of control. It's just that you didn't know how much energy you were emitting.
How do you develop that breathing power? What is what's some advice you could tell me what in the audience what can we do to develop that type of power from a breathing standpoint?
Time and practice. Just take that one move and just practice it. Just keep doing it slowly, under control. Understand the target that you're getting. That particular strike in the form itself is meant to be like at the middle abdomen, or what they call the middle of the body. But it's meant to be, when you hit the impact of it, it's meant to go down. It's not meant to go straight on. Because you learn the understanding of the body that tells you, well, the body is made to be able to deal with straight-on impact. If you just fall straight down on your chest, you'll be all right. You pretty much get up. But if somebody hits you and they hit you straight on, you can pretty much take that because your body can take straight-on impact. But now you start hitting stuff at an angle and you start knocking it down. I don't care how much 6-pack or 12-pack you might have on your gut from working out with all those sit-ups. If I hit you straight, you'll handle it. But if I angle it down and start knocking things out of place, you're going to feel it a whole lot worse.
Wow. Grandmaster, so let's so
we your mind up to even seeing things like this and feeling things like this, because when you're doing them, they happen to you, and you say, whoa, what was that? Then you start to examine it. You become a student. You become a scientist. You really start mathematizing Sanukas. You really start sciencing it out like a lab rat.
I know, yeah, man. The way you breaking this down, that's what I'm saying, man. You're one of those. You got to be, you definitely, man. This is your specialty. So let me ask you, Grandmaster, okay,
thing, brother. That's one of the things that we all will have to remember as students. Unfortunately, as students, most students are lazy in that they will get what their teacher shows them, and they will try to do it to the best manner of their abilities what they saw. But they forget as a student, you can't just mimic what your teacher showed you. You need to go home and do your homework and try and figure out, why did that work? What makes that happen? What is the real result if I do it this way or that way? We got to really be students of martial arts. We just can't be martial artists. We just can't be practitioners. We have to be students. We have to take our work and study it. And that is, the blessing that I have had because I was been by myself. All I could do is study it because I didn't really have for a long time nobody to work out with but myself.
All right, so Grandmaster, so we move up this piano. So key 2, let's say key 2 is Pia 2. So what does Pia 2 reveal?
Okay, Pia 2 starts showing you how to block and move on more deadly strikes. Pia 2 is blocking a punch and a kick, but you drop blocking a lunge kick, and you're blocking a lunge kick. Well, when you make that block, you kind of come back on it, but then you're inside, right up under his nose with an uppercut, then an MP. Then you're making a hard punch, and that hard punch that's another one of those devastating punches, because if you look at that hard punch, your elbow's straight up, and your punch is coming over the elbow, and it's punching down on the upper bowels of the heart, on the aorta. And then the other bottom strike is hitting right into the heart. So now if you got a pump that's pumping and you block the block valve, what happens? It pressures up. Is that right? And when and then you hit it while it's pressured up. What's going to happen to it, brother? It's going to
You go first. Yo, Grandmaster, you ain't no joke. You ain't no joke, man.
Brother, I'm telling you about when you study something, you find out about what it's about.
Well, you ain't no joke.
A lot of people will make that punch, and they just think that punch is cute. But when you study that punch, and you see that the first part of the punch is going down on the upper part of the heart. When you strike on the upper part of the heart, you're closing that heart valve. You're making that aorta shut. And while that heart is still pumping, it's pressuring up, isn't it? And when that heart gets pressured up, that other strike is coming out, just busting it. It's going to hit a pressured up pump. And I mean, at minimum, it's going to just cause the whole body to stimulate. It's like a car going down the street and the gets bad gas. It goes ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. At maximum, it's going to blow up, brother.
We're talking to Grandmaster Mohammed.
What happens to you?
We live on This Is On Demand series. Grandmaster Mohammed, living legend in Sanuka's Root System.
Brother, I'm not a living legend. I'm just a student of Sanuka's Root, and I'm doing my best to study it every day because I don't stop studying it.
Yeah. Grandmaster Mohammed. Hey, Grandmaster, on this show, you definitely a living legend. And to the audience, 619-996-1602. Our later part of the segment, we'll take calls. But man, I'm really enjoying this. Interview. So all right. So check it out. All right, boom. So Grandmaster. Okay. So now Pia 3. What's that all about?
Pia 3 is showing you how to disappear and how to hit places on people to make them stop what they're doing. The first strike in Pia 3 teaches you a downward strike to the instep. Just do this for your own examination. Take your heel and put it on the top of your instep, and just hit it kind of hard. See how much it hurts.
Damn.
That's a very sensitive placement. Nobody would think of hitting, would they? But in Pia 3, you learn to make that strike, to hit that instep, to hit the nerves that's on the top of that foot, and that'll stop a person dead in their tracks. But also, that same strike, when you really study it, you find out that same strike, just that downward strike movement, is more than just a strike by itself, because you can use that one movement, that same strike, without changing it a bit. It becomes a defensive movement. If somebody's attacking you and you just strike down directly on their strike, hit that nerve package. destroy that arm. If you use it as an offensive movement, when they're coming in and you step back, you take that same strike straight down, but you take it on their heart and punch straight down towards the lower parts of their bodies. It's going to cause them some damage. And then you can take that same strike when you line a person up properly and take that same downward striking movement, it becomes a throw. So, I mean, the simplest thing is, I know, because when you study them, brother, when you study those P forms, what seems to be simple, you will find to be dynamic, devastating, you know, of so much enormity, brother. You can just take one piece, like I said, every day, and just study one move. You can go through the whole form. Just do the first move one day, then the second move the next day, then the third move the next day. You do yourself a disservice.
Well, you know, as I'm practicing my PF forms, I'm gonna definitely be playing back this interview, man. I'm always keep this interview, you know, and inshallah, you know, always have it. You know, when I be getting my dojo, I'm always play for my future, you know, my students, and let them hear this Grandmaster, you know, so they can have this energy, you know, that we're documenting, you know, because what you're saying, man, this is just, man, this is some heavy stuff, man.
Well, you know, brother, you know, I pray that what we're speaking on will inspire and enlighten and excite students, not just of Sanukas, but of every martial art, to further examine what it is that they have and what it is that they think they're doing, because they're going to find that there's a lot more there than what they've been knowing about.
All right, Grandmaster. Okay, so man, I got to know it all now. All right, PF4. What's PF4 about?
All right, hold on, Grandmaster. Let me interject 1 second before we go to 4.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, listen. Before we go to 4, because we got a little bit ahead of ourselves on. I wanted you to talk about let me ask you about the salutations, which are very important.
Very important.
The opening and closing salutations that you do. If you could just speak on that briefly, then get into PF Form 4, just because I've seen the salutations, and I know I don't fully understand it because I don't know the PF forms.
Let me try to break it down to you, brother. Okay, please. Let me try to break it down to you, all right? The salutation, if you look at the salutation, there's 8 moves to it. There's 8 moves on the salutation. The first move is when you're just standing there with your hands up. In Islam, that's the position of prayer for us.
Right.
What greater or better position of safety can you possibly be in than when you're asking your God to protect you?
Damn.
That's the first part of the prayer form.
Man.
Is that you're standing in a position asking for protection.
Man, Grandmaster's dropping the jewels tonight, man. He's dropping it. He's dropping it.
Are these not things that you understood yourself, brother? Are you first hearing this for the first time? It amazes me when I speak to people about the P forms. You know, I'm like, how come you didn't think of that? You know, why didn't you study it and see that yourself? It's very obvious to me that's how it starts. You know, like the first part of the P form, like I said, let's go on through the salutation quickly. The first part of the P forms is always a salutation, which Doc asks us to do the salutation before and after every form. And trust me, brother, when you're doing that salutation before and after every form, and you're just doing 1 through 9, you're in good condition by the time you finish that. Okay, so that said, the salutation on P form. The first part is the position of prayer, or you're just standing with your palms up, legs together, knees slightly bent, and you just got your focus on everything that's around you. The second part is when you bend your knees slightly. You're just dropping your knees slightly, because what that is somebody has reached from behind you and gotten you in a bear hug. And you've let them do this, because sometimes, you know, we let a person do what they want to do just so that we can set them up and have them where we want them. Sometimes you don't have to stop the person. Sometimes it's cool to let a person do what they think they want to do, just so you can get them where you want to get them. So now if this person grabs you from behind in this bear hug, they got you solid. When you just make that first little movement by just dropping your weight just a little bit, it actually takes them off balance because automatically right now there's a weight shift. There's an imbalance happens when you do that. You off-balance the person just by slightly dropping your weight, just bending your knees slightly. And it's significant enough that you come forward a little bit to give yourself a little space. And then when you thrust back with your knees bent and thrusting your arms forward and bumping them with your buttocks area and throwing your arms forward and getting those arms from around you, trust me, brother, that bump in the gut is like somebody taking a garbage can and hitting you in the stomach with a garbage can.
Mm.
So that's the first. So that's the third move, just bumping them. Then from that, remember there's a guy coming towards you now. That's when you go down. You just go straight down, take your right leg and just shoot it back because you don't want to really move out of the place that you're in. But you move your right leg back and just strike straight down. You catch him in an instep. That's going to freeze him momentarily. That striking that instep is crippling, just like I actually just kicked yourself on that instep a little while ago. I know you felt it.
Mm.
After you make that instep strike, remember the guy that you just bumped behind you?
No.
He's still there. So you shift. You stay in a nice half stance. When you shift back, you're coming back with a back fist to his groin and a palm heel to the crown of his head at the same time. And you go back to that other guy that was there and hit him again in that instep. And when you bring that right leg forward, you bring it straight up his body, right under his chin, and you're taking all your weight and lifting your weight right up, striking him up under his chin.
Mm.
Then you go to the side. Then you go back to horse stance. That's the 8 moves of just the salutation. That salutation is taking care of 2 people, if you understand. Hello?
Good.
Are we still live?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, definitely, man.
And then when you take the different moves of the salutation and just see how you can apply them by themselves. Like if somebody grab you behind, just, without you realizing, somebody just come and grab you in a bear hug, and you hit that salutation, bang. Right? If you just come back, if you hold their right hand with your left hand and just bring your elbow straight back, you got a beautiful MP right to their head. Then if you just put that right hand right onto your shoulder, cross step deep with the right leg and just spin right around in the cross step, you're going to wind up with an automatic arm bar that will either put that person in control on an arm bar or break the arm. It's almost like automatic. But, like I said, the piriforms are just insightful, brother. When you hear me say that the piriforms are the Rosetta Stone of Sanukas, they're great in that. The piriforms are almost like the Rosetta Stone of martial arts because they show you and develop in you an understanding of what martial arts is really about to the extent where no matter what a person is doing, regardless of what style or system they may be doing it, you're going to see something familiar in there that's going to let you be able to understand it a whole lot better than if you did not have the piriforms. What would you be looking at? Many times you wouldn't know. But the piriforms just give you insight into the science and the mathematics and just the insights that, martial arts really bring to the forefront. Because martial arts it's greater than just the punching, blocking, and kicking. We develop in areas as a result of just good study in martial arts. You'd be walking down the street and all of a sudden something tell you, don't walk around that corner. That's due to your training. Your training develops your instincts. And how do you say, well, how do we develop that? Brother, those are things that we don't put on the sign on the front of the door. But those are the things that happen. We develop our God-given instincts that we don't even know we have to come to the front, and we can use them more than the average person who never participates in any type of a study that will develop the instinct of what his natural being as a human being is. We as people, brother, we got a lot of power, and we use so little of it because we really don't spend a lot of time studying ourselves to see what we as human beings can be about. When we hear people talking about, well, I heard somebody, thinking something, some may think that that's far-fetched, but then again, there are others who study to do that, brother. You know, there are people who don't do anything, just sit in a position and meditate to develop their personal power. Are they crazy for doing that, or are we crazy for not doing it? You know, it depends on how much of your humanity are you willing to recognize about what's this human, you know, journey about. What are the tools that we have to use as human beings?
So Grandmaster. So let's. I want to get you back on that piano again. So let's go back up to 4 now. So P of 4. What is that? What is the reality of P of 4? What does that look like?
The reality of 4 is gets you used to having somebody real close to you. That's the worst place that a person wants to be when you don't know how to fight. Is up real close on a person. P of 4 is about somebody coming to choke you. You know, and you got to realize the person who comes to choke you, that type of attack is worse than a person who's trying to punch you. Because the person that wants to put their hands on your neck, that's somebody that wants you dead. They don't want you hurt. They want you dead. You know, so that's an entirely different level of an attack. And P of 4 brings you right in that level. It shows you how to just move, how to defend yourself very closely, very effectively, and very efficiently. Because the first movement is you bring the elbow right up into their heart. That elbow comes up, pop, and the right hand blocks that, takes his left hand off your neck just by hitting the nerve inside his hand will weaken his grip on your neck. The other hand, you're taking a palm heel, and you're putting a cobra on the other arm. And it's not like a cobra just any place. You're putting that cobra right on the nerve package. Every time you touch somebody, every time you hit somebody, you should leave your signature. You should let them know every time you think of that spot on your arm, you shouldn't have tried to touch me.
Hello? I'm just soaking up the wisdom, man. I'm just soaking it up. And P of 5, what is P of 5?
P of 5, again, is another dealing from a very close order movement. It's, again, another choking attack. But it's a different attack because P of 4, whereas you pretty much staying in one spot, P of 5 gives you movement, gives you more movement and being close at the same time.
And P of 6?
P of 6 now, P of 6, we're going into a lot of movement again with P of 6. We're going into multiple attack again. First person is coming at you, you kind of just cross-stepping them, and you're making a strike to the kidney. Then when you come up, the person's throwing a block at you, you just come around blocking that strike, but you're not just blocking the strike, you're grabbing that strike and making a front snappy kick and actually pulling them into the kick. And then when you go down, that's because you recognize somebody behind you. You go down and you immediately sweep the person behind you, and they actually see you sweeping. The form is teaching you, well, what happens if you try to do something and it doesn't work? Because the first sweep, you actually do it as if the person sees that sweep and they jump up and jump over it. But then you also have a back kick that comes straight out and catches them before they get back down on the ground. So you see the field form. They teach you not that, you know, what you're going to do is always going to work, but it teaches you how to compensate for something that may not work. You know, you can't go into a fight thinking that what you're going to do is going to be it, and they ain't going to do nothing to you. You got to be able to adjust and be able to recognize what opportunities exist for you at the moment that you're in that fight. Forget what you might have learned. Forget all the techniques you know. If you ain't in the right position, and the proper circumstances are not available, it ain't going to work. You got to be an opportunist. You got to be so well-trained that you don't have to think about what you do. You just have to look and see what's available and do it. It got to be part of your breathing. It got to be part of your sense of smell. It got to be part of your sense of hearing. It got to be part of your sense of sight. It's got to be so maturated into who you are and what you're about. When you're in a fight, you shouldn't even be thinking about what you're going to be doing. Just do it.
Grandmaster, you said something. Before we go to PS7, you said something interesting. I want to talk about it. You said opportunist. That's kind of deep. Like, as a martial artist, I get what you're saying. You know, you should be an opportunist. But should a martial artist also try to create opportunities that doesn't exist so he can get off what he's trying to get off? Like when you say opportunity, like what does that mean to you?
Okay, what that means to me, of course, if you're in an argument with somebody and you know that, this is not going to end the way you want it because this person is not listening to you and you are going to fight, then in a case like that, we as Sanukas will always say there's nothing wrong with getting off first. If you see it's going to be a fight, let's do it and get this over with. But also, too, when I say an opportunist, somebody, they may be throwing something at you. They'll throw a punch, they may block what you do, or they may grab you and get you in closer. You got to recognize where you are when they snatch you. You got to be looking at their body. If somebody grabs me close and I'm looking at their midsection, I got to know where in that midsection I could touch them some pain. That's going to cause them some harm. That's going to bring some destruction to them. That's going to take them out of the order. I want to be able to put so much pain, brother, is a great dictator. You know how sometimes you get up in the middle of the night, and you got to go to the restroom, and you kick the corner of the coffee table, and you go into such just a level before you decide to pass out. There was nothing really devastating about the fact that you kicked the corner of that coffee table, but it's just the idea that coffee table caught you unaware at a surprising time and hurt so bad that it occupied your entire mind. There was nothing else on your thought pattern. Imagine hitting somebody like that, putting so much destruction and devastation and pain on that brain at one time, brother. You become a mind controller when you can do that, brother. You in such a manner that I know what you're thinking, then I know what I could do to you.
So let me ask you. So when in combat, would you say it's better to have the mentality of an opportunist, and then the techniques will come to you if you're it's almost like, let's say if you're in a house and you wake up one day, God forbid this hasn't happened to any of us, but let's say you're in a house or someone is in a house or a person is in a house and the house is on fire, but you didn't know it was on fire. The first thing you smelled was the smoke. So when you got up, you don't know how severe the fire is. You don't know, but by default, by natural instinct, you become an opportunist because first you know where's the window, where's this, where's that, what I mean, and then once you figure out where certain things are, your body naturally responds to what you got to do, whether you got to jump out of a window, whether you got to, whatever you got to do. But when I'm thinking about your language, it does kind of start off with some type of opportunistic standpoint. So in combat, you don't, like you said, you don't know when the fight is going to come, but when it's tight, but when it comes, it's kind of like that burning building. And when so would you say it's wise to kind of to attack it as an opportunist, and then once you're in it, then the techniques will come from your training.
The techniques will come from your training, but also too, brother, you do know when that fight is going to start, because when you're in a fight, just like you smell the smoke to let you know that there's a fire. When you're getting ready to get into a serious confrontation, you smell that person. You smell that energy. You have a sense that tells you, okay, this just hit that place. We're going to fight. So there's that smoke. And once you smell that smoke, like you said, the first thing you're looking for is a safe place to go. You really don't want to have to deal with that fire. You're looking for a safe exit. You are going to look, when you're in a combat situation, you're going to look to see, okay, can I get out of this? And if you see, okay, I'm engulfed in this, and there ain't nowhere to go, okay, then I got to deal with this smoke. First thing I want to do then is I want to get low, get something wet and put it over my head. I want to stay low and try to find the window. Is that right? As soon as I get into the confrontation, the first time I throw that punch is going to let me know everything about them at that moment. It's going to tell me what their intention is, what their level of training is, what their abilities are, how strong they are, and it may even give me insight into how weak they are. And I'm immediately going to try and capitalize on that information as soon as I get it.
So, Grandmaster, let me ask you this. Okay, so you're using the same language, right? So you're in combat, you're about to get into the fight, this kind of thing. Now, going back to the smoke thing. Now, let's say, the fire's coming, but there's no windows you could jump out of. You know what I mean? Like, there's no windows you could jump out of. You just got to go, you may just have to just kind of run through that fire, jump out that fire, and if you could kind of run through it and maybe roll through it or whatever, maybe you may get burnt a little bit, but at least you may still live. So, but before you jump through that fire, there's a process. You got there's a mentality, there's adrenaline rush, this kind of thing. So when you're actually in combat, like when you actually got to face your opponent or opponents, you know what I mean? And when you're actually in that combat situation where you got to face the fire, what's coming at you, what would you say will be the proper mentality, the proper mindset when you're actually going to go into a physical combative situation with another human being?
The mentality that I'm in when I get ready to go into combat with a person is one of survival. I want to survive. I'm not looking to get hurt. I know that if I've got to run through that fire, there's some preparation that I could make to allow me to get through it a little safer. If I got some water and I could get a blanket and wrap a wet blanket around me and wrap that and run through it fast enough, I'm going to be safer as opposed to just running through it dry. If there's no way out but through that fire, then I just got to pray that I can go through it fast enough that I create enough wind that the fire, I might feel the heat, but the flame won't touch me, and I hope I don't have to go through so much flame that I run out of air or run out of speed to keep the flame off of me, because I know my environment. This is a flame in my house. If this is a fire in my house, I know where the door is. If we're in a fight with somebody and somebody's throwing a punch at me, I know the extent of what they're trying to do. In order for them to be able to throw a punch at me, that means they got to get close enough for them to touch me. Is that right? If they got to get close enough for them to touch me, guess what? That makes me know that I can be close enough to touch them.
When you were talking about, and I'm going to wrap up with this analogy, but when you were talking about the salutation, and you said that the salutation with the 8 movements, you said that it basically represents peace. And so was it safe to say that when you get ready into that fire, when you get ready into combat, that you really should try to be at a point of peace, and that while they're crazy and coming at you, as they're being unpeaceful, you should try to remain peaceful? And do you think that maybe by staying peaceful and using Islamic, staying on your deen in the combat, do you think you will be the successor?
It will definitely help. Of course, there are many factors that have to, that will contribute to whether you be successful or not, and it all comes down to how hard have you trained? How well do you know what you think you know? Because, yes, every fight I'm going to remain as calm and peaceful as I can, because I don't want to get mad and angry and then begin to have an idea, I'm so mad at this person, I just want to punch them in the nose. Once I start doing that, I've already lost the fight, because everything else that I could have done, I'm no longer even thinking about doing. All I want to do is punch this person in the nose.
Grandmaster,
by staying calm, by not getting excited, it allows you to become the opportunist. Somebody throws a punch at you.
Exactly.
That's good. That means they're giving you something. Guess what? I'm going to go get that punch. I'm not even going to wait for it to come. I'm going to be a gentleman. Since they're deciding to give me something, I'm going to go get it. I want to get that punch before it even gets out. Before it gets to where it's most powerful, I want to get it already and redirect it and be working on them or working on that arm, or working on whatever's coming at me. Because how you say, if a person has a weapon in their hand, is it the weapon that you need to worry about, or a person that's wielding the weapon?
Every video footage I've ever seen of Doc, he was always calm. It was almost as if he was playing an instrument, like the uke was his instrument. You know what I mean? Or he was a mechanic and the uke was his car. It's almost like he was going to work. You know what I mean? Like, it never seemed like he was out of his. But in his calmness, everything he did was so deadly.
Exactly, because that is a great analogy of how Doc worked. Doc was always at peace. That's why you never see Doc do the same thing twice. Right. Because every time he did it, it was something new that was coming out of him. That's why you could have been a student of Doc for 30 years. And in 30 years, I guarantee you didn't get the same class twice. There's some principles that he might have revisited because he thought they were important enough to go back to. But even in revisiting certain principles or certain areas, you still never got the same class the same way. And that was just a phenomenal thing about Doc as a teacher. And when Doc taught his students, those that he, were a little more advanced, and he was trying to teach them to teach, I believe he was trying to get them to understand, to really study what you know, so that when you get ready to deliver it, you don't just demonstrate it and expect your students to copy what you're doing, but you should be able to break it down. You should be able to break down how should you be feeling, what should you be seeing, what should you be looking for, what should you expect to happen when you do such and such and such and such. And as a result of knowing what's going to happen, that almost makes you, how you say, a soothsayer, because if I hit you in your gut and I know that that's going to make you bend over, that means I can foretell your future. I know your head is coming down. So if I already know your head is coming down, maybe I just need to put something there for you to meet it when you get there.
Grandmaster, so number 7. I follow what you're saying, sir. Definitely. That's on the same way. So number 7, where are we at now on that piano with PS7?
On PS7 with that piano, you're starting out to learn how to move against different people in much more space. Right? You're starting to block in a short distance in front of you, but then you got guys coming from the side of you, and you're moving on the sides now. You're moving to your, to your 180 on your left, and you're moving to your 180 on your right. You see, so PS7 starts to give you a great understanding of motion and space.
Man. The PS8.
PS8 begins to give you, again, you're in that more space zone, but you're now dealing with, like, walking into the heat. When you deal with PS8, you're dealing with 3 guys standing in front of you, and you actually are walking right up into them, and the first, once you step into that PS8 and you come down, you attack the guy that's in front of you. Boom, it's a real short jiu-jitsu type strike to the groin. Then you're going right to the left. Then you go into the groin on the right. When you come out, you go back to the guy in the front with a weaving type of punch. That particular block, if you know it looks like a block, but that's a weave that delivers a punch to it, brother, that's devastating. It's like a 6-inch blocking strike when you really understand how to do it.
And then the last one, Doc, and then in the series, PS9.
PS9, brother, when you get into PS9, again, you're starting to kick. Because PS9 has a little front snapping kick to it and a side kick to it, but the kicks teach you how to kick low and balance. The doc always said, don't kick above your waist. You're not a bird, brother. You're biped. You need to keep up your feet on the ground. So if you kick high, you lose your balance. You lose your strength. We generally in Sanukas, we never see us kicking above the waist. All the kicks in Sanukas are very low.
And I know in your mastery of 1 through 9, you've had your own insight, which may, like you may not know, but for your own personal creation, PS10 and PS11. Can you elaborate on that? What is PS10 and 11?
PS10 PS10 is a throwing form. All of the other forms are movements, kicking, and take pretty much do all of the things that we do in the context of on the or stable fighting, as you might say, just stand up. But when we get to 10, that one I felt was the next progression to follow suit with what Doc had already laid down in 1 to 9. PS10 is a throwing form or a projection form, because what you're doing is taking a person coming down to hit you in the head and just moving them in an Aikido fashion, bringing them around and discharging them probably into another person or, wherever you want. You know how you say, if you're in Brooklyn and you got to throw somebody in the street, make sure you're looking and throw them in front of a bus and then walk away.
And in P11?
And P11, again, there's a lot of throws in that form. It's about movement. It's about kicking. It's about sweeping. P11 is about sweeping and throwing. You got to see it. You got to see it. But, again, 10 and 11 take the forms to, what I believe to be the next natural progression, which would be to show how we throw and how we sweep. And, of course, when you do these forms, you can also do these forms against the person So you get what they call a bankai. You get somebody reacting to what you're doing, so you have somebody that you're actually doing this to. You don't just always do them by yourself. You have somebody coming at you with the attacks, and they're learning how to attack, and you have yourself doing the form, and it's defensive posture. So the forms are not just meant for you to do them by yourself. You have to also do the forms against other people sometimes.
We're on the phone tonight with Grandmaster Mohammed out of California. It's just an honor to talk to him about the 9 forms, the 9 original forms, and then the 2 that he himself created from his own insight. 619-996-1602. Grandmaster, before we go into the heart-to-heart segment, which Mashian is going to basically take over from there, I just want to personally thank you, for your time, and I'm also going to go to the list tonight. I see there's 3 calls on the line, and I'm going to just bring them in. And just so people know, when you call in, basically what I do is I just read off the last 4 of your numbers. You know what the last 4 of your numbers are. If you want to talk, you talk. If you don't, then fine, you don't talk, and that's it. And when you call in, all I ask is that just state your name and then ask your question. All right, 1334.
Shihan Eric Allen.
Chris.
How are you?
How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir.
I'm good. Just listening to the interview and really enjoying everything you had to say tonight.
Hey, it's nice. It's a pleasure to meet you, Shihan Allen. I heard a lot about you. Is it possible I can, while we're on air, is it possible I can get an interview with you, sir?
Tonight would be a little difficult, but I can definitely schedule a time with you at another time.
Oh yeah, not tonight, of course. But would you open to giving me an interview?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I have your number here. I'm not going to sit on the air. And it's okay if I could call you maybe tomorrow. We could schedule something for, let's say, next week.
That'd be fine.
All right.
And by the way,
you have.
Yeah, just one second. Hey, Shihan Eric. Shihan Eric, how you doing? Saladin, how you doing, my friend?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good. I miss you, man. How's everything going?
Everything's good. Busy time of year, but everything's going really good.
Well, good. Hey, thanks for calling in, and we'll be in contact.
Good.
All right.
Hello? There was a time I remember we were in Staten Island, and Professor Tom Curry had a seminar there, and I had an opportunity to work with Shihan Eric and his brother. And we had a real good time. Those guys are very knowledgeable, and they're like, really good scientists. They know how to examine things, and, they know how to question a teacher to really bring out of that teacher what's in them. Because a lot of times as students, we just think the teacher's going to feed us. And sometimes as students, it's really necessary to have good students that will ask you questions that will challenge you and make you dig deep to give them the type of answers that will answer their questions, and also bring you to places where you have better insight of what you're doing.
Grandmaster, I'm going to to the line. 3611.
This is Brother Terrence from Chicago. I just want to call this hi to my teacher. I'm one of Brother Arrington's students, and I just enjoyed the interview.
So are you training? Are you training out in Chicago, brother?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a little bit about who you train with, and a little bit about if you train in Sanukas, what is it like out in the Chicago area?
Well, I'm under Grandmaster Mohammed, and I have my own school in Chicago. And,
okay.
So, but I train with different people. I train with different people in the system, but I'm an instructor myself, so I do a good training. But I just want to call in and give my teachers a greeting.
Hey, let me ask you, how's the Sanukas in the Chicago area? Is it pretty strong out there?
Yeah, Sanukas is strong. We're doing our thing. I have a number of students, We keep Doc's name alive, keep the legacy alive, and we rolling with Sanukas. The legacy continues.
Us. And hey, why don't you just shout out your dojo? Shout out your dojo. Shout out, where people can come and get information. Because, it's all one family, man. It's all one love. So just, shout out your dojo, where they can find you. If you want to put out your email number, whatever, just use this time. We have this a national show.
My dojo is Survival Fitness Dojo. We're in the Chicago area, and you can reach me at Survival Fitness at Yahoo. And we teach Sanukas, the PIA forms, and like I said, I'm a student of Brother Urban and a student of Doc. Doc took me on years ago, and we're doing our thing. And I'm just glad to continue the legacy.
It was a pleasure to meet you, brother. Eye to eye, brother.
Eye to eye. Heart to heart.
Can I say something about that brother that just got on the phone?
Absolutely.
Brother Terrence, I just kind of want to say, Brother Terrence was probably the reason why I really started teaching anybody, because he was my son's friend and came by with him and saw me working in the backyard, I believe it was. And he was a proverbial student that would come by and say, can I learn that? I remember the first time he said, can I learn that? I actually tried to make him feel so bad that he would not want to be bothered with this. And then he comes back,
Yeah.
And I did it again. I figured, okay, maybe I didn't scare him away good enough the first time. But by the third time he came back like, okay, we're going to do that again. It was like, oh, my gosh. I was starting to feel sorry for the little brother, and I really felt like I owed him a decent class at that point.
Right.
But you might say that because of that brother Terrence is why I even continued teaching, in California, or started to teach in California, because I was very content in just working out by myself and just training with my children.
Grandmaster, before we go into the heart-to-heart segment, we have another caller, 91014. 9014. 9014. Okay. All right. So, Grandmaster, I'm about to go into the heart-to-heart segment, and basically what this is, Shihan, I didn't have anything developed for this, so Shihan is going to take this over, and I'm just going to play the music for this segment.
Okay.
All right, Shihan, it's all yours.
All right, Grandmaster. All right, we'll ask you, in the heart-to-heart segment, we ask the questions, some of them a little bit, we ask stronger questions and things that people want to know, and we're going to start out the heart-to-heart segment with our very first question. Why do you think that Dr. Moses Powell only taught PIA forms to some and didn't teach PIA forms to others? What was his reason behind that? Or what do you think his reason was?
Like I said, I believe that Doc had so much in him that he really never stayed in any one area very long. And if you really look at the manner in which Dr. Powell taught, you'll see that if you can almost look at 10-year periods and know by watching a student exactly what period they were studying under Doc, because Doc taught so differently as time went on. And then, as you remember, in the last period of time, Doc pretty much wasn't really up and moving a lot like he used to as a young man, but he still taught the principles. He'd sit in a chair, brother, and teach you, and still blow your mind with what he taught you. But, he's taught so much in so many different things that he just didn't stay teaching any one thing for a real long time because he had so much. And unfortunately, I believe that Doc died with still not even letting out maybe less than half of what he had in him to give us.
Yes, sir. So when you were with Doc, you caught Doc, and of course at a stage when he was evolving.
using the evolving term, do you think the PIA forms, do you think they should something that should also evolve, or should they, would the argument be, should they evolve as far as the bunkai or the application while remaining, keeping the truth of the movements, but maybe the application's evolving? Or how do you teach as far as
They do that, brother. They do that.
Yes, sir.
It's like I don't do today what I do with the PIA forms, the same thing that I was doing with the PIA forms 10, 15, or 20 years ago. Today, what I do with the forms is totally different. So Sanukas in itself is a live martial art, live that is constantly growing and developing and improving itself. And yes, even though I may do the PIA forms just as they were given to me back in the early 70s, the things that I'm doing with them are totally different because my knowledge and understanding of them is a lot different. You know how you say when you view a thing differently, you see things about it different.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And exactly, and actually that feeds into my next questions. The variations that one may see in the PF forms, and the variation. And as you know, we spoke on this topic earlier before, and you had stated that people saw things differently. Would that be be a major reason, if not the reason, why we see different variations? I mean, we don't see major variations, just very slight variations from different PF teachers. Would part of that be from Doc evolving, or just students seeing things differently? If, for instance, if Picasso paints a picture, we may all see Picasso have one picture there. We may all see the same picture, but we're all going to see it and interpret it differently.
Well, you're pretty much right in what you said, because there are a few variations out there, and I believe that the variations that are out there are more because, like I said, when something's delivered in a specific manner, not everybody's going to keep doing it in a specific manner over all of these times. You got to figure, the time that Doc dropped the PIA forms was 40 years ago. From 40 years ago, if you haven't been doing them constantly and consistently, when you sit down and try to remember or try to bring out of your mind what you did, you're going to not necessarily remember what was the bridge between maybe movement 5 and movement 8. And you're going to say, okay, well, I know I got this one, and I know I got that one, and well, if I put this there, that'll make that bridge work. So consequently, you wind up putting something in there that really wasn't in there because you just don't remember what it really was. And then there's also the thing of, how you say, because we were not constantly always doing the PIA forms together, you get people, or students that, feel that, they put their spirit into what they're doing, or their style into what they're doing. And, I can't say that's wrong, brother. Who am I to say that that's right or wrong? If you feel a certain way, you feel it, All praises due to you, brother. Do it the way you feel. But for myself, I try to pride myself on that. I believe I'm doing it as close to the way I was taught when I was given them. Because fortunately, like I said, I didn't have any lapse in time where I had to go back and try to remember them. I kept on doing them from the time that I got them, and I've been doing them from the time that I've gotten them. So you figure, all in total, I've been doing them consistently for over 40 years.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, absolutely. Absolutely. How would you, someone came to you and say, well, I'm a jiu-jitsu master, or I'm a karate master, or whatever, or they would ask you, understanding that you're saying the PIA, or we understand from the conversation the PIA would be the Rosetta Stone of not only snookers but of martial arts. But if someone came to you, a novice, someone that not with much martial knowledge, and honestly said, what can I pick up from the PIA forms? What benefit would it do with me? as far as like if a novice came to you and wanted to know the practicality or just what use? In other words, why can't I just punch the bag, kick, maybe choke your eye, grapple, blah blah blah? How would you present that to a novice or somebody that's walking into your dojo and sees you doing these what would be strange movements to them?
Well, if you're talking about punching a bag, it really don't make any difference. But if you're talking about punching a person, you need to know where to punch a person and how to punch a person and when to punch a person. You know, it's like when you're in a fight, you know, a good boxer watches his opponent's breathing, and he tries to hit him in his body shots when he's breathing in, not when he's breathing out. Because if you know the anatomy, when you breathe out, your body's at its strongest. But when you're breathing in, you're relaxing. Your body's relaxed. You want to hit a person when they're relaxed. You don't want to hit them when they're strong. And the same thing in the art. If you're watching the person that you're fighting and you can pick up their rhythm and you see how they're breathing, you hit them when they're weakest. You don't hit them when they're strongest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When you say, what will a novice begin, you break it down to them. You let them understand. Just to be in a fight and being able to hit is not enough. Because you can hit somebody in the jaw, and all you're going to do is make them uglier than they already were. But if you take that jaw punch and move it about maybe 2 inches down on that chin, now you got a knockout punch that's going to end this fight, and you can walk away and go home.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How important are the peer nerve strikes? The peer nerve striking system, how much of a play do they play within the peer forms themselves?
They're all part of the forms, but the whole thing is what you call, you know, the mortar and the mix. It's all together. There's no part that's more important. If I don't move the right way, I can't get to the right place to do what I want to do.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So if I don't practice how to move in and how to block, how to redirect, how to strike, where to strike, when to strike, if I can't put that whole package, all that information together, you know, then none of it's going to do me any good. I've got to be able to train and practice to be able to bring that whole package into play instinctively. I can't be thinking about it. If I'm thinking about it, it's too slow. It's got to happen. The fights that I've been in, brother, that, you know, that I really had to use this art, I can't tell you what I did while I was in it. It's usually a case of when it's finished, I'm trying to think about what happened. What did I do?
Yes, sir. kind of like almost, or like a Sherlock Holmes movement, if I could pitch the movie. You kind of see the fight as it's happening, before it's happening, and after it happened.
Well, you can't see the fight before it happens, but like I said, if you got to think about what you're going to do before you have to do it, you're already too slow, because what you might think of doing, you know, you might hit the person a little bit harder than you thought, and then they're not there where they're supposed to be. You better be able to adjust. So it's better to just, you know how you say, study hard enough and well enough that when you get into the mix, your training comes into play. And yes, you know what you would like to do, and you know what you're going to want to do, but you also know what you're going to have to do at the moment that you have to do it. I know that doesn't sound very scientific. It's kind of spooky to think like that, but that's the reality of it, brother. You know, fighting is not just a physical thing. Fighting is a very spiritual thing. It's a very mental thing. You know, it's like when you look at some of your great martial artists, they're people of you know, renowned other things. Some of them are great artists. You know, some of them are, you know, great scientists and great people of great thought, because you just can't get into a fight and all you're going to do is have the physicality of it. Where's your spirit at? Where's that thing in you that's going to tell you when this person is really gone to danger zone on you and when he's not? You know how when you're talking to somebody, you know when a person's laughing and joking, and you know when they're serious? You know, those are things that your natural living trains you to hear and understand and see. And those are things that you can just put your hand on them. They're not exactly what you call tangible things, but yet they're actual things. It's just like the air, brother. You know the air is there. You don't see it. You can't feel it, but try getting along without it.
Yes, sir.
in a previous conversation with you, we talked about the fighting forms of snooker's rule, which we know came in around, I guess, late 80s, early 90s here in Atlanta with Carol Mohammed, Little Grandmaster. And I asked you, I think you said that you saw those, or you said they are a continuation of the PF forms. Could you elaborate on that for our audience?
Well, I don't know those forms. I only saw those forms. And I remember Professor Little was the one who was the most versed person with them at the time that I saw them. And when I saw him, doing them, it looked very much like the PF forms, but it also looked like they were much more of a harder form. They didn't flow like the PF forms themselves flowed. They seemed to have a different style to them, and I don't know whether that was because Professor Little came from a karate background and he brought that look to it, or whether they were delivered to him in that manner. But, like I said, having seen the short forms and the long forms and the PF forms, I can only say that they are a continuation of the PF forms. They're just showing different things in different ways. And, hopefully one of the snooker students out here in California will get hold of the long forms and really take to studying them and maybe bring a different flow into them where, they might not look so karate-ish. They might look more like the forms themselves. It just, like I said, a lot of the times it has to do with the person that's doing it. Will do it in terms of where their heart is at. So, if you're a hard karate man, you're going to look like a hard karate man regardless of what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, good. Grandmaster, I want to ask you for our audience. Can you tell our audience something that you learned from Dr. Moses Powell that was not in the dojo? Just from, because you and him were actually genuine friends, and you guys, I'm sure, had many conversations. Some were privy to, some were not. Well, what can you tell the people about Dr. Moses Powell, the man, not the martial artist, but the man himself, and the type of influence he had on you, both as a man, a person, and as a friend?
Doc was a man of insight, and he loved his people. He loved to see brothers and sisters getting along well. He loved to, he knew that he had something to give that would help to develop the man to not just be a good fighter, but just to be, how you say, sometimes your training transcends what your idea for training was about. When you train, sometimes it's like reading, scripture. You may read it for one reason, but once the ideas of what's in that scripture gets hold in your brain, it starts making you act different and do different because, with understanding, you do things differently. With wisdom, you're obligated to change your ideas of what, you know at the point of knowing it versus when you didn't know anything about it. You become responsible for what you know. And, Doc was a man of great vision and insight. He wrote a lot. He studied a lot of different things. He really enjoyed speaking on spiritual stuff. Doc was he really liked to talk about the mysticism of life. Doc really enjoyed the phenomena of being a human being. He looked for that explanation. He looked for that reason. Why are we here?
Absolutely.
He was a man of great insight, and he was also a man of, to some degree, prophecy, because he saw things before they happened, and he took a lot of actions to make sure and ensure that Sanukas would still survive when he's not here. I mean, just look at the fact that he made, how many systems have 15 Grandmasters? Doc didn't do that haphazardly. And you got to realize, too, some of these Grandmasters are pretty young. So Doc didn't put an age limitation. What Doc did was register the character of people. And he knew the character of these people. Maybe, Doc always used to say, well, none of us are the ranks we are when we get them. but we grow into them. And we all pray that we grow in to what Doc believes that we could be.
Yes, sir. Have you ever seen Doc angry or mad within the dojo?
Not in the dojo, but I've seen him angry. You don't want to be there when that happens. It's like, you know how you say, when you have pets in the house and your cat knows when you get mad, they find a place to hide. I've never seen Doc angry in the dojo because I never saw him get mad at a student.
Yes, sir.
I never, Doc kind of used to say, if God put you in front of me, put you there for a reason. No, you wouldn't be able to handle this if you weren't driven to be there.
Yes,
I never saw Doc get mad at a student, not in the dojo. But yeah, I seen him get mad a couple of times. I wanted to run. Trust me, I didn't want to be there.
Well, one of the things I think that everyone has said, all the Grandmasters, professors, senseis that we've interviewed, is that Doc loved the students. I mean, he really, really loved the students a lot, and that's always been conveyed. To the point where even when things would not go his way or things would be contrary to what he wished, he would see past that because he loved the students a lot, man. And I haven't heard many teachers say I love them. They're my students, they're my disciples. But Doc really, he loved the students, and that's prevalent from what you see from his students from Miami to New York all the way to Oakland. So that's one good thing.
There was something really special about Doc's ability to give all of his students a sense that they got something special from him. That's just the mark of the type of man, the type of character that he had. He didn't just love his students like that was his normal. He really kind of gave you an insight into the connection that he had with you as an individual. And you knew that he had a different connection with everybody because, Doc was a consummate Capricorn. He loved people. He liked to work people, too. He'd be around people and sometimes he'd, see some cats on the mat and he'd say something and then go sit in his little office and I think he'd be peeking through the window just to see what happened.
Yes, sir. Hey, as we know, people grow and evolve and things like that. I'd like you to tell our and this will be our last question for the Heart to Heart segment. I want you to explain to our viewers or tell our viewers a contrast, almost like an essay, a college essay or high school essay. You don't have to as many words as you want to use. Kind of a comparison contrast between Sensei or Master Moses Powell from 1969-70 and Dr. Moses Powell, who transversed to the other side in 2005, and also your last conversation with Doc, if it's something you can share. Your last conversation with Doc, just whatever you can share with that, Professor.
I think that knowing Doc as a young man and being with Doc as a young man, we were young. We had the energy of youth. We did what we had to do sometimes without thought of where the abilities came from, where the real strength and talent lied. And as Doc got older, he became more knowledgeable, more insightful, and, more understanding of himself and the world and others around him and how he related to them and how they related to him. And, Doc became, in his latter years, became a very powerful man in terms of the things that he thought of. His wife, Gina, let me know one day, like we were talking, and, she would tell me some of the things that Doc used to say about the forms and stuff, and Doc used to say how the forms can heal you, as well as keep you alive in a fight. And I've always heard things that alluded to that, but I didn't understand them back then. But as I myself have gotten older and, seen a lot, I now understand what Doc meant about the pioforms are healing, because the pioforms, just like they can summon up the energy in you to deliver destruction, they also can summon up the energy in you to deliver healing to your own body. Because how you say, when you learn to really be inside yourself and go inside yourself at a cellular level, on a spiritual level, there's no reason why you cannot heal yourself, because when you look at medicine, what do other than stimulate your body to do for itself? So when you really get into the forms and develop the healing end of the pioforms, you learn how to go in there and heal yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Pioforms will give you life as well as take that, as well as deliver death. And that's the phase that I myself am just coming into, and I'm examining it and getting deeper involved in the pioforms as a healing process, as a healing art, and seeing the variations and the difference in the movements to do them for healing more so than just to do them for fighting.
Yes. And then your last significant or your last conversation with Dr. Moses Powell.
Well, I really don't want to go into that. It's like
or I mean, it doesn't be nothing private, of course. I should say your last impression.
Well, the last impression of Doc that I really keep in my mind was he was a man of profound thought. He was a happy man. He was satisfied with himself, with who he was, and what he had attained and acquired in this life. He was proud of himself as the man that he was, the man that he grew to be. And he had a lot to be proud of, because he could look out, at any given moment and just think about the number of people that, he saved their lives. He changed their lives. The mark of a man is, who says your name when you're gone? And you hear Doc's name mentioned a lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, you're listening to our live interview with Grandmaster Urban Mohammed. I believe you're in Oakland, right, sir?
No, sir.
Portland,
Let me give you my information. Would that be okay?
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I want you. That's what I'm getting ready to go to.
Okay.
Well, you tell people how to reach you, email, website.
Yes, sir. I'm going to give you all of that now, okay? Again, my name is Urban Mohammed, and we're in Long Beach, California, which is Southern California. The school is located at 120 West 7th Street in Long Beach, California. The zip code is Long Beach, California, 90813. The school website is Urban School of Self-Defense, one word, .com. So if you go to urbanschoolofselfdefense.com, you'll find the website. It's a nice website. I hope everybody visits it. If you want to get in touch with me directly to get the DVD of the pioforms, just call me. Call me at 562-208-3980. And, the pioforms are, I'm marketing them. That's one way to get the information out. But greater than just calling to get the forms, I would really hope that maybe someone would hear this particular interview and develop the desire to have me come to where they're at and teach this, because the pioforms in the DVD, it's a great second memory. But without someone really teaching you what the forms are about, what the various nuances are about and how to use them, you miss a lot. You really miss a lot. So hopefully, I just want to let everybody know that I am available to travel. I don't come back east too often because for myself, it's kind of expensive. I'm living on the West Coast and everything's happening on the East Coast. But if people are amenable to doing, to helping me get out there, I'm really open to coming out and teaching because I love to teach this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to say thank you to Grandmaster Urban Mohammed. Very, very insightful interview, and you answered a lot of thought-provoking questions that people had, including myself, about the PIA forms. And, I think we covered every base. I also want to thank our callers that called in and our listeners as usual. This was brought to you by Sinjo Martial Arts, www.sinjomartialarts or sinjokai.com, your premier Snooker's Rue Dojo located here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to turn it over to my co-host Shabazz to wrap it up, and I just want to say thank you again, Grandmaster Urban.
You're welcome, sir, and I really hope that you guys start calling me Tesla. I'd rather that better.
Well, I was told, and I'm glad you say that because I spoke with Ms. Gina Powell earlier today, and Ms. Gina Powell said that Dr. Moses Powell said you were a Grandmaster, and if he said it, then I'm going to say it. So I'm going to have to go with Doc on this one, my friend.
Yes, sir. Okay, brother.
Yes, and Grandmaster, we're definitely honored to speak with you and converse with you, and just thank you again for your time. I mean, it's just in this short period of time. I mean, it's quite evident. I think everyone can see the depth of your knowledge. Your knowledge is very deep, and I've benefited personally from this conversation, and you've deposited your spirit in me, and I hope that I could ride your spirit out for the rest of my life, because every time I have an opportunity to talk to all these masters, I take a little bit of their spirit, and they become part of me. And I just thank you for this opportunity. And so in the tradition of Snooker's Rule, you being the senior rank on this phone, I'm going to let you end it out, in an eye-to-eye, heart-to-heart format.
Yes, sir. Well, I pray that everyone who listened, would be inspired to study what they know, to study it deeper. I pray that this conversation brought some greater understanding. Hopefully it stimulated those who know Snookus to study it more, and those who don't know Snookus to find the Snookus dojo and start studying it. And, may we all be successful in our lives, and may the best of possibilities come to all of us. Watch your back, heart to heart. Heart to heart.
We'll go all the way. Take care.